It happened between laughter and cake. Mom leaned over to my brother, her red lipstick still wet from the champagne, and whispered, "While everyone's here, go and change the locks." My heart stopped, not because I wasn't supposed to hear it, but because I did. My name is Emily Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been betrayed so quietly? You almost convinced yourself it didn't happen? The candlelight flickered across my mother's face, calm, composed, like she hadn't just erased me from her house. My house. I just bought that place 6 months ago. Every brick paid with my own salary. I'd let them stay for a while, after Dad passed. But somehow, a while turned into ownership. Theirs, not mine. Mom clinked glasses. "To family," she said, raising her wine. My brother Luke smiled like a soldier who'd just been given orders. He slipped out quietly while everyone laughed at some half-hearted joke about my busy single life. I sat frozen, my fork hovering mid-air, watching my reflection in the silver plate. Seeing a woman who'd just been locked out of her own home. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just excused myself, walked to my car, and drove. When I reached the gate, the lights were still on inside. Mom's silhouette moved across the living room window, graceful, deliberate. Then the metallic click of the deadbolt echoed through the night. I smiled. Not the smile of someone broken. The smile of someone who saw this coming. Because what they didn't know was, I'd changed the locks the night before. When Luke came back an hour later, his face was pale, his pride drained. "She changed it first," he muttered. Mom's laughter died mid-sip. The night went silent, and for the first time, she looked afraid of me. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. Because the woman they thought was too kind to fight back had already started the war. And that was just the beginning. The next morning, I didn't wake up in anger. I woke up in clarity. The kind that burns slow, like a match held too close to skin. Mom had texted, "Don't come back until you're ready to be civil." Civil. The word made me laugh. She and Luke had changed my locks, emptied my fridge, and called it civil. I poured myself coffee in my tiny apartment downtown, the one I'd kept secret. It was supposed to be my writing place. Now it was all I had left. But here's what they didn't know. That house wasn't just a house. It was part of Dad's estate, and I was the one who handled all the legal paperwork after he died. My name is on everything. Every signature, every clause, every line that Luke and Mom never bothered to read. Dad trusted me, not because I was the eldest, but because I was the only one who didn't want anything from him. He used to say, "Fair doesn't always mean equal. It means earned." And I earned it. So when Mom and Luke locked me out, I didn't panic. I called Mr. Bennett, Dad's old lawyer, an old man with a kind voice and a memory like iron. He picked up on the first ring. "Emily, I was wondering when you'd call." I told him everything. He sighed. "Your father knew this might happen. There's a letter in the safe. The one under the floorboards of your study. Only you can open it." I froze. That safe was inside the house. The same house I wasn't allowed to enter anymore. But if Dad's voice was still in there, in that letter, I had to hear it. That night, I parked across the street from my old home. Lights on. Curtains drawn. Laughter leaking through the windows. They were celebrating something. Probably my erasure. I waited until midnight. Luke's car left first. Then Mom's bedroom light went dark. I crossed the street quietly. Heart steady. Keys in my pocket. My new keys. Because the locksmith I used had made me a master duplicate before I moved out. The door opened with a soft click. The house smelled like betrayal and lilacs. My father's study was exactly how I left it. I lifted the floorboard, opened the safe, and pulled out a sealed envelope marked in his handwriting. "For Emily. When they show you who they are, don't flinch." I held it to my chest. Tears finally breaking through the calm. Outside, a light flicked on. Footsteps. Luke's voice. "Emily." I turned slowly, holding Dad's letter. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one caught. He was. Luke's voice trembled in the dark hallway. "Emily, what are you doing here?" He looked half drunk, half guilty. The perfect mix for a confession. I didn't move. I just stood there holding the letter against my chest like a shield. I came home, I said simply. The word home hit him like a slap. He glanced at the open floorboard, at the safe, at the papers I'd laid out. You knew about that? Dad told me everything, I whispered. It wasn't a lie, he had, just not in words. Luke swallowed hard. You shouldn't be here. And you shouldn't have stolen my house, I said, stepping closer. The tension was thick enough to breathe in. He opened his mouth to speak, but I tore the envelope open first. Inside was a single folded page, yellowed at the edges, and a key taped to the bottom. I recognized Dad's handwriting instantly, firm, certain, unshakable. Emily, if you're reading this, it means the house has fallen into the wrong hands. I left it in your name because I know you'll protect what matters. Not walls, but truth. Inside the second drawer of my desk, there's a folder labeled Bennett. It holds every document your mother never wanted you to see. Don't argue. Don't warn them. Just finish what I started. I looked up slowly. Luke had gone pale. What folder, Emily? He asked, his voice cracking. The one Dad hid from her, I said. He took a step forward. You don't understand. But I was already at the desk. The second drawer slid open with a soft creak. Inside, a thick brown folder marked Bennett and a USB drive. I didn't even have to look to know it was bad news for them. Dad's lawyer, I said, Mr. Bennett. This isn't about the house. It's about money. And lies. And you two thought I wouldn't notice. Luke's face twisted, all color draining away. Emily, listen. Mom made me do it. She said Dad wanted. I slammed the drawer shut. She said a lot of things. He reached for my wrist. I didn't pull away, just stared at him until he did. There was pity in his eyes, but not enough to save him. I'm not here to take anything, I said quietly. I'm here to return what isn't yours. I pocketed the USB and the letter. Then I turned to leave, brushing past him like a ghost. He followed me to the porch, whispering, "She'll destroy you for this." I smiled faintly. She already tried. The night air was cold and the letter felt heavy in my pocket, like Dad's hand still guiding mine. Behind me, Luke called out one last thing. Emily, please don't tell her I helped you. I stopped at the gate, turned back once and said, then don't make me. The next morning I opened the USB. And what I found inside made me realize, this wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. Of my father's name. Of my future. Of everything he built. And I was done being quiet about it. When I plugged in the USB, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, from restraint. I was sitting in my apartment, blinds drawn, laptop glowing like a confession booth. And there it was, a folder labeled Carter Holdings Internal Transfers. My father's company. The same one Mom and Luke had claimed went bankrupt after his death. Except it hadn't. It had been bled dry. Hundreds of transactions. Small, quiet, spread over months, all under Luke's name. And every single one approved by Mom. They'd been funneling Dad's retirement funds and charity money into their own accounts. Money meant for his workers. For me. For his legacy. My throat went dry. Dad wasn't just trying to protect a house. He was trying to protect the truth. I scrolled to the last document. A scanned letter, dated 2 days before Dad's heart attack. If anything happens to me, check the Bennett file. Trust no one, not even family. Especially not your mother. My vision blurred. Dad had known. And now I did too. That night I called Mom. She answered on the second ring, her voice sugar-sweet like nothing had ever happened. Emily, finally. Are you ready to apologize? Sure, I said softly. But maybe you should go first. Silence. Then I dropped it. How's Carter Holdings doing these days? The offshore accounts. The transfer logs. The sound of her breath hitched. Where did you hear that name? You left fingerprints, Mom, I said, leaning back. And I have all of them. For a long time she didn't speak. Then the softest laugh. Emily, you think you understand business? Your father built that company with my money, my connections, my life. You wouldn't have a roof without me. Funny, I said. I remember him saying the same thing about you. The sweetness in her tone vanished. You're not ready for this war. Neither were you, I said and hung up. Within an hour Luke texted. Mom's furious. What did you do? I didn't reply. Because I hadn't done anything yet. The next morning I got a call from Mr. Bennett. He sounded calm, almost expectant. Emily, are you sitting down? He asked. There's something your father asked me to file in case this ever happened. It's in ownership clause. The house. The company. Everything. They're legally yours. But if you move too fast they'll fight you in court. If you move smart they'll surrender before they know they lost. That's when I decided how this story would end. Not with noise. But with silence. That evening I drove to Mom's mansion. My mansion, and parked across the street. Through the window I could see her throwing papers, pacing, screaming into her phone. Luke sat slumped on the couch, defeated. My family, the two people who'd built their comfort out of my father's grave, were finally cracking. And I hadn't even started yet. Because tomorrow the world would know what they'd done. And I'd make sure they knew exactly who exposed them. By morning Mom had already drawn her battle lines. I woke up to 50 missed calls and a storm of notifications. Luke's name flashed across headlines like a wildfire. Carter family daughter allegedly embezzled father's fortune. My picture. My name. My face. Plastered on every gossip site she could buy with her blood money. I sat still watching my world burn in real time. Mom had done what she always did. Hit first, lie harder. And make sure everyone believed her version before I could breathe. But she'd made one mistake. She underestimated silence. I called Mr. Bennett. I assume you've seen the news? I said. He sighed. I warned you she'd move fast. But don't worry, Emily. Everything's still in your favor. You have the documents. The transfers. The proof. I know, I whispered. I just need to choose where to strike. That afternoon, Luke came to my apartment. He looked wrecked, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling. Mom's lost it, he said. She's hiring PR firms, threatening your friends, even calling your job. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Sounds like her kind of love. He sat down, buried his face in his hands. Emily, I didn't know it would go this far. She told me it was just about protecting Dad's legacy. Stop lying, Luke, I snapped. You signed the transfers. I have your name on every file. He flinched. Then, in a broken whisper, she said if I didn't help her she'd cut me out. I thought I could fix it later. You don't fix betrayal, I said coldly. You survive it. I turned the laptop toward him, showing him the spreadsheet. The numbers, the bank names, the forged signatures. See that? That's what you helped her steal. Not just money, his name. Luke stared at the screen, pale and silent. Then slowly he said, What are you going to do? I looked him dead in the eyes. Tell the truth. Publicly. That night I didn't post anything. No rants. No statements. Just one image. A photo of my father, smiling in his workshop, sleeves rolled up. And the caption. The man they said was broke. The man whose daughter they tried to erase. Tomorrow the truth speaks. It spread faster than any headline Mom could buy. People remembered him, the kind, honest man who built half this town. And they started asking questions she couldn't silence. By midnight, reporters were outside her gate. By morning, the Carter family name, her pride and her weapon, was bleeding in the news cycle she once controlled. Mom called me. Emily, you've gone too far, she hissed. You're destroying us. No, I said softly. I'm cleaning up what you left behind. Then I hung up. Because by then the storm had already changed direction. And this time she was standing in the rain, not me. By sunrise, my silence had turned into a movement. Thousands of comments. Hundreds of messages. And 3 missed calls from my mother. She was losing control. And the thing about people like her is, they don't know how to lose quietly. At 9 a.m. she appeared on local television. Perfect hair. Perfect smile. Perfect lie. We're deeply saddened by the false accusations being made by my daughter Emily. She's been struggling since her father's death, and grief can make people imagine things. Imagine things. That line hit like a knife between my ribs. I watched from my couch, coffee untouched, hands trembling but steady in purpose. Then I opened my laptop, dragged the folder labeled Carter Holdings, Internal Transfers onto my desktop, and hit upload. One post. One sentence. If grief makes people imagine things, maybe these numbers will help you see them too. Screenshots. Bank receipts. Emails with her signature. Every lie she built her empire on. Gone in one click. Within an hour the internet erupted. Journalists flooded the thread. Lawyers started dissecting the files. Her television segment turned into an inquisition. I didn't stop there. I sent everything directly to the State Financial Bureau, using Dad's lawyer as witness. Every stolen dollar now had a trail, and every trail led straight back to her and Luke. By noon my phone rang. Luke again. He didn't sound angry this time, just broken. "Emily, the feds are at Mom's office," he said quietly. "They're asking questions I can't answer." "You mean questions you don't want to answer," I corrected. He hesitated. "I told them you didn't know. That you were innocent." I almost laughed. "Too late, Luke. Innocence doesn't need defending. The truth already did it for me." He sighed. "Mom's blaming me. She said she never touched the accounts." "Of course she did," I said. "That's what she's always done. Used people as armor until they break." For a long time he didn't speak. Then, "Emily, I'll testify for you. For Dad. I'll tell them everything." It wasn't redemption. It was surrender. But sometimes that's the only kind left. That evening a subpoena arrived at Mom's mansion, the one she tried to steal. And the world she'd built on other people's pain finally began to crumble. I watched the news quietly, no champagne, no celebration. Just Dad's photo on the shelf, his letter folded beside it. "When they show you who they are, don't flinch." I hadn't flinched. Not once. But the fight wasn't over. Because people like her don't stop when they're cornered. They destroy whatever's left standing. And I had one last thing she couldn't touch. My father's final message. The one she didn't even know existed. By the time the headlines turned on her, Mom wasn't the poised, camera-perfect woman anymore. She was frantic, cornered, brittle, unraveling. Luke had testified. The FBI had frozen her accounts. Her lawyers had started to vanish, one by one, like rats sensing the flood. Me. I stayed quiet. As I had one last move. That night Mr. Bennett called. "Emily," he said, voice steady but low. "There's something your father left. Something I was instructed to deliver only after the company's assets were seized. I think it's time." He came by the next morning, a frail man in a gray suit holding a small black envelope. It was heavy, sealed with red wax. My father's initials were pressed into it, J.C. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. "If you're holding this, Emily, it means they've already tried to erase you. Don't fight them in their language, fight them in truth. Inside this drive is everything. The recordings, the files, the real story. The one they'll never tell. When you release it, don't use my name. Use yours." I closed my eyes. He knew. He had seen it coming. The greed, the betrayal, the hunger to own what wasn't theirs. And he'd prepared for it long before I realized the war had started. That night I watched the videos. Clips of Dad's meetings, voice memos, contracts with Mom's forged initials. But what broke me wasn't the evidence. It was his voice. Soft. Proud. "If you're listening to this, I want you to know, I'm not angry anymore. Not at them. I just want you to live free of this house. Free of their ghost. You were always the honest one. That's why I trusted you with the truth." I cried for the first time in months. Not out of grief, but release. The next morning I uploaded the files. Not anonymously this time. The post began simply. "My father built Carter Holdings. My mother stole it. Here's what she did," in her own words. I didn't add drama. I didn't need to. Within hours, every major outlet picked it up. The recordings spread like wildfire. Her voice crystal clear, bragging about offshore transfers, mocking Dad's illness, laughing about how Emily will never know. The world saw her mask fall, frame by frame. By evening, reporters were camped outside her gate. Neighbors whispered. The board of directors issued a statement removing her name from every title she'd ever claimed. Luke called me again that night, voice shaking. She's gone, he said. Packed her bags. No one knows where. I looked out the window. Rain hit the glass softly, rhythmic like forgiveness. She'll resurface, I said. People like her always do. He hesitated. What will you do now? I smiled faintly. Finish what Dad started. Because his voice wasn't a ghost anymore. It was a legacy, one I was ready to rebuild from the ashes she left. But I wasn't done. There was one last place I needed to go. The house.